Good afternoon and welcome to this additional council meeting. I will now ask Councillor Greg James to perform a welcome to country.
Thank you, Mayor Sally and my fellow councillors. I pay respects to our ancestors and I acknowledge our elders, both past, present and emerging. And I also acknowledge the Yorta Nations and all its people whose land we meet on today. So on behalf of the Yorta Elders Council, the 16 family groups and the eight respected tribes who proudly share in the status of traditional owners, I say a very warm welcome to this wonderful land and waterways, which is quite appropriate at the moment, the waterways. Yes, Ali. Thank you.
Councillor James. Item 2, acknowledgement. We, Greater Shepparton City Council, acknowledge the Yorta peoples of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay our respect to their tribal elders, we celebrate their continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Item 3, privacy notice. This public meeting is being streamed live via our Facebook page and made available for public access on our website along with the official minutes of this meeting. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given in the event that your image is broadcast to the public. It is also assumed that your consent is given to the use and disclosure of any information that you share at the meeting, including personal and sensitive information, to any person who accesses those recordings or minutes. Item 4, governance principles. Council considers that the recommendations contained in this agenda gives effect to the overarching governance principles stated in section 9.2 of the Local Government Act 2020. These principles are as followed and they're listed number 1 to 9 on page 5 of the agenda. Councillors, we turn over to page 6, item 5, apologies, nil received. Item 6, declarations of conflict of interest. Councillors, do we have any conflicts this afternoon? No. Councillors, we now go to page 7 of the agenda. 7.1, Councillor's Statement of Expectations for the role of Mayor of Greater Shepparton City Council. Councillors, there is a recommendation. Can I please have someone put that forward as a motion?
I'll move, Mayor Sally, that the Council adopt the Councillor's Statement of Expectations for the role of Mayor of Greater Shepparton City Council as attached.
Councillor Dobson, can I please have someone second that motion?
Second that motion, Mayor Sally.
Councillor Adam. Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
The functions are set out of the Mayor and they're quite specific and they haven't been altered over the last 12 months. So what was in 2021 is going to be the same in 2022. So there's no need to go on to them all. But I just refer councillors to the Statement of Expectations.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
Just to say here.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Adam. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? No. We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 10 of the agenda, item 7.2, which is election of the Mayor. Before we get to that, I will just read out a statement that in accordance with section 25 of the Local Government Act 2020, the Chief Executive Officer will facilitate the election of the Mayor. However, prior to proceeding to this item, I will first chair the first part of this item, which relates to the mayoral term. I will now call for a councillor to move a motion in relation to setting the mayoral term. Councillors, there is a recommendation there. Can I please have a councillor put that forward as a motion? Councillor Dobson.
I move that the mayoral term be set for a period of 2 years.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Can I please have a councillor second that motion?
I'll second that, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, Councillor James. Councillor Dobson, would you like to speak to the motion?
We're in unusual times at the moment, thank you, Mayor, and those unusual times, I believe, are going to continue on for at least the next 2 years, if not beyond. What I'm referring to, is, of course, is the floods of the Goulburn River and the amount of work that councillors had to do in conjunction with support agencies and others. And I believe that there will be ongoing floods, there will be ongoing rain over the next few weeks, and then we've got the recovery and the rebuild period. The committee needs stability at leadership level, and I believe that the Greater Shepparton City Council can lead the way with stable and consistent leadership. So I believe that by having a 2-year term, just for this period, that stable and consistent leadership will be maintained. We've done a lot of work with governments over the last few days, the last few weeks, governments such as both federal and state and even the Governor-General. And those governments, knowing from experience that I've had, want to be able to go to people that they've known and feel comfortable with. And I believe that a 2-year period gives that stability going forward. At the end of the 2-year period, of course, we can then adapt and change and go back to 1 year if necessary. So I think for the purposes of stability over the next 2 years, it would be prudent, practical, to have a 2-year term for the Mayor going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Councillor James, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor Sully.
Councillor James, are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you, Mayor Sully. While in principle this seems, or on the surface it seems quite simple, what the community won't see is that this has come out of left field at the 11th hour and is not a deliberated debate. It, quite frankly, it does not seem like open and honest and transparent politics, and it is not something I particularly want to be a part of, and I thought we were better than that as a group. I absolutely commend Councillor Sali for his efforts through this event. He has been an incredible leader, but he is the leader of a council and a community, and he's one of 9. He does not stand alone in that role. And I do firmly believe that any of us in that position would have done just as great a job, and he set a wonderful bar for us to reach to if any of us get that opportunity. By extending this period to 2 years, quite frankly, I find that disrespectful to everybody else sitting around this table, in that at 1 year, Councillor Sali absolutely has that opportunity to continue doing such an excellent role and to then go for it again in a year's time. But by setting it at 2 years, it removes any opportunity for any one of us to then put our hand up in a year's time. It also, I think, sets a dangerous precedent that we have no control over in 2 years' time. That's the end of our term. So while we may have good intentions that it would revert back to 1 year, we have no control over that. So the fact that this has come out of, essentially has come out of nowhere and is now on the table for us to be deliberated, I argue is just not the way that we should be doing this. And if it is something that we have an appetite to do moving forward, I would hope we would have a much more deliberate discussion around it. And so I will not support this period of 2 years.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion?
I would like to foreshadow a motion, please. Mayor Sully.
Foreshadow.
You beat me to it.
Are there any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Adam.
Thank you, Mayor Sali. I take the points that Councillor Spinks has mentioned. I think they're all valid. Over the years, I've been advocating for a 2-year term for the Mayor, for the simple reason that, as the current Mayor understands, and former Mayors also understand, a 12-month term is nearly not long enough to really establish the links and the communications and the relationships that need to be formed with other local governments or state or federal governments, for that matter. Having said that, this is a democracy and everyone should be given the opportunity. So, as I think Sam said herself, that you've done a fantastic job over the last few weeks, and I'm sure you know it better than us from what you've gone through. And this is not about you personally, Mayor Sali, this is about any mayor in that role. I would suspect that if you've done a fantastic job, that it would have been a no-brainer in the sense that the following year you'd probably be re-elected. But I do also, on the other side of that coin, I can understand that those relationships, especially around this time and crisis that we are, I don't want to put too much of a theatrical accent on it, but there will be recovery probably for 12 months at least, if not longer. And some of the relationships that you're forming now and commitments you're getting from the essential services and all the other government departments, if you're not here in 12 months' time, that will have gone to waste. Not saying that you wouldn't be. So I'm sort of on the fence in that respect, but I will support the motion on this one instance because I think we do need some sort of continuity. But I do accept what Councillor Spinks is saying, that I would suspect any other councillor around this table, we'll never know, would have stepped up to the mark. But as Councillor Spinks said, you've set a high standard, and I would suspect that anyone here could do the same to a degree. So having said all that, I still support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Adam. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Councillor Abdullah.
Thank you, Councillor Sali. And first of all, start by congratulating you in the role, and you have demonstrated that service excellence. And as Councillor Spinks has said, you have really set the bar very high. But here we are, not talking about individuals. I am speaking against, and I'll be voting against the period of 2 years for the following reasons. This change from 1 year to 2 years was proposed and brought to my attention only yesterday at the 11th hour, as Councillor Spinks has highlighted. Amid the flood emergency we are dealing with, and when so much is going on, raising a proposal to extend the mayoral term is not the best decision, I think. This matter requires a more detailed conversation and consideration, and dealing with it hurriedly can be viewed as contradictory to the principles of transparency and good governance, and reflective of a very poor decision-making process. By rushing to support this proposal, me and some of my fellow councillors are in a way denied the opportunity to consider the proposal thoroughly and diligently. So while I do not rule out this arrangement in future, but at this moment, I do not feel that we have looked through the proposal comprehensively and we have considered all issues, and some of them I'll highlight now. Councillor Dobson, you mentioned about unusual times and the amount of workload and the amount of intensity of this period that the mayor has to experience and will be going through. The flip side of this argument is the same workload. Extending the term to 2 years today means that the workload involved for the mayor in the current emergency and disaster management situation is being completely overlooked. The reality of these floods is that recovery will be a long process, as you have all mentioned. The mayor will be required to be front and center of many areas, such as intense advocacy, lobbying, media engagements, on-site community support, dealing with a lot of angst and anxiety from the community, and other mayoral duties that are over and above the standard mayoral term. And regardless of the best intentions and the excellent current performance of the mayor, there are chances that a long and intense 12 months, in addition to 5 months that the current mayor has already devoted to this role, may burn out, and it can burn out anyone in this role, and may require a review from many angles, health and well-being being the one. The current annual practice of electing a mayor, if it stays to 12 months, will allow the mayor, can I have an extension please? Thanks. It will allow a mayor to review his situation and decide accordingly. It will not bind the mayor to do 2 years, and it will give him an option to get out of this role after a hectic 1-year term ahead of us, and if that is needed. So that's number 1 point. And of course, the other point is, and it's a separate issue, but it is an issue that, you know, that the separate issue is about not shutting the door of senior leadership positions for other equally committed and capable councillors. The opportunity to put their hand up, should they aspire for the mayor's role, is a fair call. And extending the mayor's role for 2 years will mean that there is no opportunity for others in this council term to do that. So overall, the proposal is rushed and it lacks a proper review and discussion by councillors. We never had any group discussion on this. Thrusting it upon us in this manner only 1 day before the meeting in the midst of a huge emergency is disappointing, and it lacks a good governance approach. Hence, I will be voting against this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Abdullah. Are there any councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Councillor Dobson, you're right to reply.
It's terrific that we've got all sides of the story here. Just in relation to a burnout factor, and that's a pretty legitimate argument to put up by Councillor Abdullah. If that does the case, it doesn't close the door on the mayor of the day, whoever that may be, to resign from the position and somebody else take it up. This is talking about a maximum of 2 years. I take your point that it has been rushed, and if an apology is required, well, it's there. But it seemed to me to be sensible in the circumstances going forward in what we've got over the next couple of years, and I don't think we haven't seen anywhere near the end of it. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Motion carried.
Division, please.
Councillors in favour? Councillor Sarli, Councillor Brophy, Councillor James, Councillor Dobson, Councillor Summer, Councillor Adam, against, Councillor Spinks, Councillor Abdullah. Councillors, councillors, I will now vacate the chair and ask CEO Peter Harriott to take the chair.
Thank you, Mayor Sarli. Have a seat, Mayor.
I fully took up all the space.
Thank you. In accordance with Section 20 of the Local Government Act 2020, positions of Mayor and Deputy Mayor now become vacant, and I will now call for nominations for the position of Mayor.
Mr Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Sarli for the role of Mayor for the upcoming 2 years now that has been decided.
Thank you, Councillor Adem. Councillor Sarli, do you accept that nomination?
I do, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for the position of Mayor? There being none, I duly declare Councillor Shane Sarli as our Mayor. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor.
Congratulations, thank you.
And Councillor Sarli, or Mayor Sarli, I invite you to say a few words if you wish.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Peter. My fellow councillors, together we've just been through a major flood disaster, and I must say I was overwhelmed by how the people of Greater Shepparton came together in preparing feeding, accommodating, rescuing, providing shelter, a place to hold farm animals, store belongings, and their willingness to help anyone and everyone in need. And an even greater volume of people returned to assist with the cleanup. That's as good as it gets. That's the Greater Shepparton we can all be proud of. I was proud that my fellow councillors rolled up their sleeves and joined the people on the front lines. This is a true measure of this group of councillors. Council staff also jumped on board and went above and beyond and are to be all commended. Peter. This flood event has further united this council staff and the people of Greater Shepparton, whose willingness to come together in the interests of helping and protecting each other is on display all day and all night for the world to see. We've heard it before, never waste a crisis, as oddly enough, valuable learnings, opportunities and outcomes will present to be seized for the benefit of all. Now, while others are napping, we must actively grow our economy, bolster existing businesses, attract new businesses and inspire greater economic growth, as the greatest part of this all is that absolutely everyone benefits. Now more than ever, we must attract and secure funding for community facilities, health, education and major infrastructure projects. It's now game on. With the Commonwealth Games, it's our opportunity to showcase Greater Shepparton on the global stage. Greater Shepparton's work and lifestyle opportunities are becoming more and more enviable. We must keep pushing and continue to be a greater place to live. Over the past 2 weeks, we've all seen firsthand the power and passion of the people of Greater Shepparton. And they are the very catalysts that will ensure great things for Greater Shepparton, and we will not let them down. I'm grateful for the opportunity to represent my fellow councillors, the council office, and the people of Greater Shepparton. Thank you. All right, councillors, we now go to page 12 of the agenda, item 7.3, which is the election of the Deputy Mayor. Councillors, there is a recommendation. Can I please have someone put that forward as a motion?
Sarli, could I please move a motion, not the recommended one, I'd like to take out point 1 and say that the elected deputy mayor for the mayoral, for the 12-month period, not for the mayoral term as such, and point 2 as it reads.
Thank you, Councillor Adam. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Spinks. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, just briefly. But yes, we've just decided that the mayoral term should be 2 years, and there's obviously some disagreement with that. However, we shouldn't conflate the mayoral position with the deputy position. And that's no detriment to the actual current deputy mayor, not at all. I think the deputy position is an opportunity for councillors to gain some experience and to hopefully meet their aspirations of one day becoming the mayor. So I think it's a great training ground. I think anyone here is capable of actually assisting the mayor greatly. So I would prefer a 12-month period to allow other people to have that experience.
Thank you, Councillor Adam. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, just to second Councillor Adams' comment.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Are there any councillors that would like to speak against the motion? Councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillors, we will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors, we now go to the nomination part for Deputy Mayor. So in accordance with Section 20A of the Local Government Act 2020, the Mayor will now call for nominations for a councillor to fill the position of Deputy Mayor. Councillors, are there any nominations?
Mayor Saleh, I'd like to nominate Councillor Sam Spinks for that role.
Councillor Spinks. Councillor Spinks, do you accept that nomination?
I do, thank you.
Councillors, are there any other nominations for the Deputy Mayor role?
I'll nominate Councillor Anthony Brophy for the position of Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Councillor Brophy, do you accept that nomination?
I do, Mayor Saleh.
Because we have two, I will now go in the...
Are there any others?
Oh, sorry, are there any other nominations? Sorry. Are there any other nominations for the role of Deputy Mayor?
Oh, good.
Thanks, good pickup. Because there are two, we will now go in the order of nominations. You will both be given 5 minutes each to speak, and no extension is permitted. So, Councillor Spinks, you were nominated first, so please.
Brilliant, thank you. First, I would like to thank Councillor Adam for nominating me. I genuinely believe that each of us could lead with equal yet unique excellence, and that the Deputy Mayor role should be shared between those with the ambition to learn and to grow. I have chosen to now run for Deputy Mayor because I am ready, willing and able, and during this Deputy Mayor campaign, I have experienced three key themes: opposites, concerns and opportunities. I chose to run first and foremost because of the opposites. I had an inkling that Mayor Saleh would be re-elected, and while Councillor Brophy has done an excellent job as Deputy Mayor, as his year comes to a close, I believe I offer an opposite yet equal potential moving forward. Greater Shepparton is a region of opposites, a regional city and small towns, low incomes and high earners, business, community, Aboriginal, multicultural, the list goes on. And it has often been said that Councillor Saleh and I, whose only real thing in common is that we are the youngest councillors, are in fact two opposite sides of the same coin. And I argue this is a very good thing. Often council is commended for being the most diverse we have ever been, but it must be reflected that our current leadership does not reflect this diversity as fully as it could. As well as being very diverse in identity and backgrounds, our council group has very diverse thoughts, values and perspectives around this table. And I argue that I, alongside Mayor Saleh, would reflect this very well, opposite but balanced. I have been very disappointed to come across concerns about my ability to perform the role, which has been a reminder that while we have achieved so much in inclusion and gender equity, we still have so far to go.
Yeah.
But regardless, since I have been combating and disproving these concerns for my entire life, I don't see why I should stop now. To the concern that as a single mother, I will not have the capacity to do the role, I can assure you all that I have considered, planned and prepared for the added responsibilities that the Deputy Mayor role will require. My little family are ready to take on this challenge, as we have done all of the challenges I have taken on and successfully completed throughout the last 12 years. To concerns in regards to my experience, I argue this is the classic example of I can't get the experience if I don't get the job to get the experience. If it is a question of my background experience that has led me to this point, I know that I have not held a classic business person leadership career and that I do not live or behave as a traditional councillor might. But that is who I am, and that is a good thing. I am a different type of leader that wants to challenge the status quo and to bring an entirely new and different set of skills to the role. And the last concern is an implication that my break earlier this year was a sign of weakness. After 2 straight years in this role and 6 months of intense deliberations around affordable housing, I took some time off. Yes, I did it without notice and I focused on other pursuits, but I had assessed the upcoming personal landscapes and had deliberately chosen that period of time, and I have no regrets or apologies for doing that. Sometimes the healthiest thing we can do is to step back, to construct barriers, and to recenter ourselves, and that is exactly what I did. And I am the best councillor I have ever been because of it. I have no interest in leadership that sees rest as weakness, and I will continue to show that putting yourself first is a strength, and I will lead by example. As it turns out, all of the concerns are actually just the barriers I face every day, and I am ready, as I am in all situations, to break them apart. And again, raising that others around this table have been elected without the need for such proof of ability, where simply their potential was enough, and yet I seem to have been held to a different standard, and that fact is worthy of reflection, I think. And whatever happens next, to be able to use this moment and this platform to publicly call it out is an incredible thing. I will not sit quietly, and I am not concerned by your concerns. And finally, I want to talk about opportunities. The Deputy Mayor role is an important opportunity to get a greater understanding of the mayoral role and to learn and to grow in many ways. It is a higher responsibility, but it's not at the same level as Mayor. It is a great chance to flex and stretch your skills and networking in preparation for greater things down the line. And for this reason, I reiterate that it is important we share the role between us. I also would highlight that almost everyone around this table has already had the opportunity to be Mayor or Deputy Mayor. I am one of only 2 that have not had this chance, and now I am here stepping up, ready, willing and able to take up that opportunity. But the only way I can do that is for those who have already had it to step back and create the space needed. Sometimes great leadership means moving over so that others can step up beside you. I represent an opposite side of the traditional, and I am proud of that fact. I have had concerns raised about my ability, and I am going to prove them all wrong. I am ready, willing and able to grasp this opportunity with both hands and grow and learn as you have all had the opportunity to do before me. And I don't want to just tell you I can do it, I will show you that I can do it. I have the potential, I need the space to fulfil it, and I need all of you tonight to give me that chance. Thank you.
Bravo. Very good.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Councillor Brophy, you also have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This time last year, we had Councillor O'Keefe and Councillor Priestley in the leadership roles. And now we've got neither. Neither are here. So what a change we've had over the 12-month period that we've gone through. I hope that I have, over that difficult 12-month period, shown the resilience, the tenacity, the stability and the direction required to be part of a leadership team amongst my fellow councillors. I've assumed the responsibilities put before me, shown the initiative to make things happen or to make change that is for the betterment of our community. I do not take this responsibility lightly. There are expectations by the community, but more so by my colleagues, fellow colleagues here, and even more so by myself, to be available, to have the skill and the experience to navigate each scenario as it's going on. To be, as an example, to be able to deliver appropriate words as part of a sermon at a church celebration recently, a cultural festival with very little, if not no notice at all, to be able to give those speeches. There is the officialdom of the meetings that we go to, the committees and the additional council meetings that we have in regards to not just being a councillor but being either mayor or deputy mayor. There are events, gatherings, impromptu visits by dignitaries or parliamentarians, very many weekends and nights that you're out. But that is the role and that is the expectation. Every bit of it is supporting the mayor in their role. Meeting regularly with the mayor and just having the discussions about processes, about procedures and looking ahead. I offer from myself leadership, political understanding, governance and a well-being which are the hallmarks of my experience. Together with my vast community connections, business understanding and empathetic engagement with our most vulnerable residents. Credentials are one thing, but vision is another. This role does not suggest or allow personal visions outside council policy, and I understand that very well. I am only one of 9 councillors. The experience gained over the past 12 months has given me the surety to know that I can do this role and be available at the Mayor's behest. The experience, as an example, has been to be able to assist the Mayor in whatever worthwhile manner it was during the recent flood situation, as a reliable and strategic support. Also, my background in regards to communication and media in the training through my work environment, but also being with Rotary International and on the speaking circuit there, discussing council policy and giving an understanding of that as well. Firstly, the support of the Mayor. Meetings, official or unofficial meetings with important stakeholders, presentations, speeches, gatherings, and being media, to be able to be available to step into the mayoral role as per the functions of the mayor role as outlined in the statement of expectation, to be ready and to be available. And like Councillor Spinks, I have made sure that my work environment and my personal life has that in consideration. The flood recovery, advocating for really industrial or infrastructural funding that we need from the federal government, from the state government, philanthropic organisations or the corporate sector. In that role, I can be a catalyst for that, to help that achieve for our particular region. A pro-business recovery plan, post-COVID and post-flood, but with a pro-sustainability lens all over it. It's highlighted in the last couple of weeks that our greater small towns out there really need the engagement, and the last couple of years has not been able to provide that. It's been very difficult. But we are now in a position to escalate the visitations, not lip service, but tangible presence, with listening and acting. Precedents have been shown, as been highlighted, that predominantly those in leadership at Greater Shepparton City Council, be it Mayor or Deputy Mayor, and we talk about ones that are in this room now, have over the past few years had a minimum of 2 years in that role. We have a very, very good team here regardless. We have great diversity within council and we're well respected. I therefore ask my fellow councillors for their consideration to please vote me as Deputy Mayor for the next 12 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brophy. Councillors, we will now go to the vote in order of nomination. So those in favour of Councillor Spinks. Thank you. Those in favour of Councillor Brophy. Councillors, that is an even vote for all. So an absolute majority vote has not been achieved, and the election of the Deputy Mayor will be deferred until a future council meeting. The motion will lapse. Councillors, we now move on to agenda item 8, and I will officially close the meeting at 6:03 p.m. Thank you. Quick.